Hello, YouTube. This is Old School from WhatTheBuck.net coming to you with our Saints post-game video. This was a thorough and sound ass-kicking doled out by the returning Super Bowl champs at our home facility, Raymond James Stadium, at a game where Tampa fans and the media, mainstream media specifically, considered it an inflection point because this is considered to be a good team. What we're dealing with here in the Tampa Bay area is a team in the Buccaneers that, despite having a good record at 3-1, is considered a pretender by everybody, and then when they get a chance to kind of shed that image by playing someone that mainstream media or the fans may think is a substantial foe, they have choked. They did it with the Steelers, and they've done it now with the Saints. Now, I happen to be the guy who believes that if we had gone and beaten the Saints, which we clearly did not do as they trounced us in every possible way, that all we would have heard from those same people is that it wasn't really the Saints because there was no Pierre Thomas and no Reggie Bush and no Darren Sharper and a number of other injuries that were true about the Saints. So I think we're really in a no-win situation with those folks, but we were in a situation where we could win. And what we've been saying from a mantra perspective is you can only play the people in front of you. And sadly, the people that the Saints trotted out in front of us managed to hang 31 on us. Chris Ivory ran all over us as if he was, I think the reference I saw earlier, he ran over us like he was Chris Johnson. Our defense and offense were both bad from top to bottom. There was no passion, no fire. The fundamentals were bad. Our gap discipline was pathetic. Our tackling was pathetic. Our containment was horrible. Our pass rush was horrible. We couldn't run the ball. I think we ended up with 42 yards on the ground total. We lost Kareem Huggins to an ACL injury. Cadillac Williams couldn't get the ball going. LeGarrette Blount was inactive for the game. A poor decision, with hindsight being 20/20, as Ernest Graham tweaked his hamstring as well. Our offensive line's not opening up any holes anyway, so I'm not sure what running back's going to make a difference. Contrary to our lack of success on the ground, they hung 212 yards on the ground on us. Our defense has been giving up yards all year, but we haven't been giving up a lot of points typically. This week, Aqib Talib, who a lot of people consider one of the better cornerbacks in the league, managed to get toasted twice. Once he should have had over-the-top help by Cody Grimm, who was late getting to the spot. But all in all, it was just bad in every possible way. I thought Josh Freeman, despite starting out a little bit rough, showed some fire, some passion, and actually had a pretty decent game. We were able to move the ball a little bit, get down in there. Then we had bad things happen, whether there were turnovers or the drive stalling due to pathetic play calling, which we also saw some more of this week. The stat that I want to highlight, though, and one that's quite often a telling stat, I've already talked about the ground dominance that the Saints put on us. The passing game was solid as well. Drew Brees had a 158.3 QB rating through, I think, a quarter and a half. I don't know when his first incompletion came. I think it was his 9th pass. But Drew Brees did what Drew Brees does, especially when you can't get any pressure. We went out and got Gerald McCoy and Brian Price. Styles White coming back in here. We had no Kyle Moore this week, who's been the beating or the sort of poster child for poor performance on the left defensive end side. We had Michael Bennett and Tim Crowder splitting their time. We couldn't get any pressure. The stat that was thrown up on the game was that Raheem Morris and the Bucs have only rushed or blitzed 20% of the time versus 51% of the time by the Saints. This Tampa 2.1 was supposed to show more blitzing. We've been excited about our defensive secondary getting an opportunity to make the plays on the ball and getting the interceptions, which we did get a tip interception this week by Cody Grimm, and been sitting back in coverage, and you just can't do that against Drew Brees, and especially not if you can't stop the run. These guys could do anything they wanted to. But the stat that I wanted to point out was third down conversions, where the Saints were 9 of 12 for a 75% conversion rate on third down. And they had a couple of drives that were scoring drives that didn't even get to third down, which makes it even worse. But the point that really pushes this over the edge is that the average yards for the first down was 5.8. It's not like they were looking at 3rd and 2, which is the dream situation for an offensive coordinator. These guys had plenty of 3rd and 10s. I had the numbers written down somewhere. I don't know where I put them. But it was just gaudy. I mean, 12, 10, 15, I think, at one point. It was just ugly. We couldn't get off the field on defense. Their punter almost fell asleep on the sideline. And then just to add insult to injury, Connor Barth, who'd been starting to look very good, was perfect on the year, manages to clank 2 field goal attempts off the right upright, which I don't think he could do if asked to do it in an exhibition and offered a significant sum of money. When you think that it gets no worse, the average yards per completion for Drew Brees was 8.2 versus our 4.9. So despite being outgained on the ground and through the air, we managed to keep it relatively close in first downs, 22-27, though we benefited by 4 first downs by way of penalty. I wish I could bring up some sort of a silver lining other than the fact that this game is over, and it is, in fact, no more or less important than any other single game we've had. The onus is going to be on the coaching staff to figure out why the hell we went into a game that was a significant sort of telling point in our season. Here we are at home. We're upset that the games aren't sold out. We want the fans to get behind this team. They have an opportunity to face the returning Super Bowl champion, who they beat last year in thrilling fashion. I put on a show, and we could not get it done. And it was very much, in my opinion, due to emotion. And that emotion, that lack of fire, that lack of intensity has got to go to the top, and goes to Coach Morris and his staff, who did not have the guys ready to go. We heard the sideline reporter, when I watched the game on replay, say that Coach Morris didn't do X's and O's in the locker room at halftime. He fired him up. He came out, got a nice kickoff. Adam Hayward, who was very pumped up, especially with breast cancer awareness, that's the story with his mother. Good tackle, get him on the 8-yard line, and all that means is they just have longer to go to score on us. When you look at the drive charts for these guys, it was ridiculous. Their first drive was 104 yards because they had a penalty. 7 plays, 104 yards for a touchdown. They followed it up with a 9-play, 80-yard drive for a touchdown, an 11-play, 77-yard drive for a field goal. Really? That's defense? That's what Tampa's based on? No, it's not. Raheem and Todd Wash and these guys have got to get this defense to start playing football. And we've been able to just say, hey, listen, we're giving up a lot of yards, but we're keeping people out of the end zone. We're bend but don't break. Well, this week we broke, right? We broke constantly. They come out of the halftime and rattle off a 12-play, 87-yard drive. And Garrett Hartley manages to shank a field goal. Otherwise, we would have been down even further. They got all the way to the 15-yard line before we stiffened up. So statistically, there just really aren't any bright spots. Anytime Sean Jones leads you in tackles, and I think he ended up having 3 or 4 missed tackles on top of that, you know that they're getting into your secondary. Chris Ivey had 81 yards in the first half alone. Steve White did a great job on his blog. We had him on the show tonight talking about the breakdowns. Now, I say there was no silver lining. There is a silver lining. The things that we need to fix are effort and technique. Now, the effort should fix itself, and if Raheem can't get that going, then he's really in deep shit, and I don't think that's the case. I think that's one of the things Raheem has going for him. That's why something like this is such a surprise. This isn't a game, in my opinion, whereby we were just simply outclassed and outmuscled. Did we get outmuscled? Did their offensive line push us around? Absolutely. Did Roy Miller get pushed around more than the other guys? Probably so. But did I feel like we were boys playing with men? No. I think that there were some of those moments. And everyone likes to quote the moments like this when it's convenient for their story. And I'll do the same thing they're going to do, because I hear the radio guys this week talking about, well, this team was really only 3 or 4 plays away from being 1-4 or 0-5. Right, and they were really only 4 or 5 plays away from being undefeated. It doesn't matter. You can go back and look at these moments and say, well, if this thing in the first quarter didn't happen, then the rest of the game would have turned out differently. Right? You look at the drives where we got down into their half of the field and we're moving the ball, and then the drive stalled. And could it have been better? Absolutely. But I think we had a complete failure from top to bottom, coaching staff included. We were out-coached, out-schemed, out-played, out-hustled, out-worked. And that is not the way a team that is young and is lacking in talent in a number of areas can get the job done. Now, the silver lining, like I said, is that those things, the technique points, and Steve White did a great job breaking down those particular 8 plays that I think amassed 130 of the yards on the ground. It wasn't the same guy every time. They were run fits. They were contained. They were things that we can get back in and whiteboard and work on and make better for this week. But what we have to see are the leaders step up. And I don't really care who they are. I think Josh Freeman actually did a good job this week despite not being on his game, especially in the beginning. He was off a little bit. Greg Olsen had a good interview where he's talking about the read routes. Josh was trying to take all of the home runs, and you just don't have to. He had one play in particular in the second half where he had Mike Williams single coverage, and he had the inside. All he has to do is dump in the middle, let Mike run underneath it and get it. And he tried to go long, tried to make it a jump ball. I get that. You got a lot of faith in Mike Williams. He's played really good football, but you don't have to always go for that play. Right, you can take what they're giving you. And what I did like, though, was Josh on the field at the time was talking to those players and talking about what they could do differently on the next play. And I do believe that Josh continues to get better, and I was wrong about the draft pick. The kid's been nothing but impressive and continues to impress week on week on week. But that being said, short of Josh Freeman, Kellen Winslow, and Adam Hayward, I did not see any passion. You saw a little bit when Jenkins took the hit on Josh going out of bounds. Do I think it was a dirty hit is the question. People in Tampa are pretty fired up. No, I don't. He's a 260-pound quarterback. Jenkins has to go low on him. He stumbled a little bit, just like the color commentary guy said on the replay. I don't think he was trying to take his knees out. Did it happen out of bounds? Yes. Should have been a penalty? Absolutely. Should Josh have gone and spoken to him, which is exactly what he did? Yeah, should Jenkins have punched him in the face? No. Should Jenkins have been ejected for that? Probably so. Do the Saints take cheap shots? I don't know. There's a lot of rumblings that happens. I don't know that it's true. I didn't see a lot of it. I think that they were out there putting a whooping on us, and that's the way it goes. And eventually, guys like Dakota Watson got fired up and started to kind of lash back. But in some ways, I would rather have seen a fight break out where we showed that we got our back up, because I didn't see any of that passion, any of that fire, any of that anger. I couldn't believe what we were actually watching during the game. And there was a gentleman on, Joe Bucks fan put the link up on his site, I believe, a guy that predicted a 40-10 victory, and I thought, this guy's full of crap. How can he predict such a lopsided victory with the Bucks coming in here playing pretty decent football? Not great football, but pretty decent football. And then we get a 31-6 score, and we're right back to the point where people think we're a joke. But it is what it is. And it is still only one game, and we got the Rams coming up this week. We'll do a preview video for that. Hopefully the thing we take away from this game is in the NFL, every team you play is a professional squad, and the returning Super Bowl champion are, in fact, pretty damn good, even without Pierre Thomas and without Reggie Bush and without Darren Sharper and all the other guys that were inactive. Drew Brees is a pretty doggone good quarterback, and you sure as heck can't let him sit back there and have all the time in the world to throw the ball. I think the only pressure we actually got was from Rondé Barber on a corner blitz, and he managed to whiff. I think Gerald McCoy might have got in there once as well. You can't get it done that way. We cannot rely on that secondary constantly. We've got to mix things up. And hopefully, Raheem and the coaching staff will get those guys in. There's a lot of discussion in Tampa about whether we should be mixing in that 3-3-5 with the 4-3, all the different looks. We had one play in particular where we had Styles White covering Marcus Colston on a drag route. I think Styles White's an incredibly athletic guy. I do not take him man-on-man against Marcus Colston. I just don't. I don't understand why that makes any sense. And the contention here about the 3-3-5 versus the 4-3 is, can Gerald McCoy, can Brian Price, can these guys actually become as good as they could be in our base 4-3 if they're constantly having to move and learn a different position? And the prevailing wisdom seems to be no, despite what the coach would have you believe. I am a fan and always have been a fan of simpler is preferred. And taking those baby steps are more important. That was the sort of mentality we had before. Everyone knew what we were going to run. We just ran it better than they did. We have chosen to go a different direction, predominantly because of our youth and lack of talent in a number of key areas. The problem is we're not committed to that. If you're going to live by the blitz, then die by the blitz. You can't just sit back and hope that Aqib Talib can pull out 2 or 3 interceptions a game. It's just not going to work, especially with the injuries and with the suspension that we've had in the secondary. So hopefully we will take the knowledge we can from this loss and roll it into the Rams game this week. Kudos to the Saints. Kudos to the Saints fans who made the trip. You guys were loud. I wish I could say that our hometown were able to drown you out, but we weren't. We had, I think, 14,000 empty seats in the stadium. We will have more than that versus the Rams and Sam Bradford and Steven Jackson. Who, if we play the way we played this week, will run for about 700 yards. I hope that's not the case. I hope that our defense gets their back up. I hope they realize that this has got to be unacceptable, and they show up and remind people that this Buccaneers team does have talent. It is young, but it does have talent, and it can play with these guys because, to be honest, like I've said before, when you have people that are as skeptical as the people in this town are right now, it's going to take more than a couple of victories. It's going to take a lot of victories. It's going to take consistent effort. It's going to take consistent opening of the eyes, because every loss is like a 3x multiplier for us. So that's that. We got our butts kicked, and now it's a matter of going back to the drawing board and trying to get another victory. So thanks for tuning in. Rate it up. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you for a Rams preview probably Thursday night. Thanks.